Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today, I finally got together part 2 of building my MDC Roundhouse model. I've had the clips for a while, but I've been too busy to put them together into a full-length video. But now I've finally gotten time to be able to do it, so here it is. This video will be mainly focused on building the model, as well as making some more modifications to it. So without further ado, let's get started. Enjoy the video. To start with, I constructed the tender, but unfortunately, all the footage of me building it was corrupted. So that's fun. But thanks to this app called 3D Modeling app, I'm able to recreate the process of me building it. I'll also be putting in photos of the original instruction paper. Let's get started. Here is the model I've made of 361's tender within the app. It is not the most accurate thing, but it's not supposed to be. It's just supposed to give you a visual of what I've done. Step 1 says to attach the drawbar to the underframe with a screw. The next step was to install the couplers, but I didn't do that at the time, so we're going to skip that for now. Step 4 was to attach the motor lead wire to the underframe, but I also didn't do that at the time, so again, we're going to skip that for now. Step 5 dealt with the tender pickups. They came flat, so first you have to bend them in place so they fit on the wheels. Step 6 was to attach the pickup shoes and the tender trucks to the underframe. And of course I did the same for the other trucks. Step 7 was tender body detailing, but I didn't really do anything there, so I'll skip this part. Finally, I attached the body to the rest of the frame. And there you have it, a completed narrow gauge tender. Next, I built the underframe of the locomotive, and this time I have actual footage of me building it. The next thing we're going to build is the mechanism. First thing we're going to do is assemble the counterweights to the drive wheel axle ends. The kit comes with two types of counterweights. Ones are for the K-series Mikados, and the other ones are from just the regular outside frame 280 engines. We're going to be using those. MDC actually got it wrong. There is no K-series 280 engines, but that's fine. First, lay out the driving wheel assemblies in their proper order. First driver, flanged. Second driver, blind geared. Third driver, blind. And rear driver, flanged. Counterweight molding detail shot number 75075. Study the detail molding and notice there are two styles of holes. Also two styles of studs, long and short. Separate into groups of 4, being careful not to mix the hole styles. Either groups of counterweights can be assembled to the right or left side of the driver axle, just don't mix them up. Holes are used to quarter the drivers. Counterweights are a press fit. Counterweight assembly assembles short-studded counterweights to first, second, and fourth drivers. A long-studded counterweight to the third driver. The long stud holds the main rod. So what they were talking about right here is you can see that these counterweights are basically facing exact opposite directions, but the holes are facing different directions. This is so we can quarter the drivers correctly. So now I'm going to split these apart. So these counterweights should not go on the same way on each side, so I need to make sure of that. I'm not really going to film this part because it's a little tedious, so I'll get back with you shortly. There we go, all assembled. The wheels, that is. 1. Clean off and take off all burrs from the underframe using a small Swiss file. I don't have one of those. I'm not going to use one of those, but I will file it. Clean out the inside of the coupler pocket and around the pilot beam steps, frame top. Remove metal between spring at B1. Number 2. Step gear and idler gear assembly. Assemble idler gear, piece number 72055, in underframe. Assemble step gear, piece number 72023, into underframe. Note, small gear faces to the left, see figure 1. I finally got this idler gear in. It took me like 30 minutes just to get this one gear in. I had to file it down so it would fit in the hole, and it's such a tight space, but I finally got it in. Step 3. Driver installation. Hold underframe upside down and place drive wheels in the axle slots. Front idler, second driver geared, third geared with long stud, and rear driver. The gears and gear drivers should rotate freely without binding. When this is accomplished, go into next assembly. Step 4. Bearing plate assembly. Attach bearing plate under frame. Use two 2x3/16" self-tapping screws. This is the bearing plate. It holds all the wheels in. The next clips are from the next day because I forgot to paint the rods that connected the drivers together, so I used the rest of this day to do that. Step 6. Before assembling side rods, deburr the front and back sides and also the holes using a small file. Attach main rod to first, second, and rear driver using plastic retainer cap. Main rod is attached in figure 3. It's much easier on this side since the other side is already all lined up. Some of the end caps didn't go on, so I decided to glue them rather than trying to insert them into the slot. Step 7, yoke and gear retainer plate assembly. Position yoke on top of underframe at 10 and attach gear retainer plate atop yoke at 11. Secure assembly using a 2x5/16 self-tapping screw. Apparently I have to saw this part to get this piece in. Step 9. Attach motor to underframe at 12 using 2x1/4 B self-tap screw. Before tightening screw, make sure that motor seats properly and that gears mesh correctly. There should be a very slight amount of play between the worm gear teeth and the step gear. Tighten motor mounting screw and rotate the armature with your fingertip. Step 12, cylinder assembly. Insert guide rod in the top hole of cylinder block. Place cylinder on a soft surface. Use a magazine with a small hammer. Slightly tap guide rod into designated hole. Do not force, but be firm. Attach cylinder assembly at 14 using a long 2-56 by 5/8 inch screw and temporarily secure top cylinder with the 2-56 nut, see figure 5. I didn't have a hammer on me at the time, so instead I used this pair of pliers. The main rod wasn't fitting into its slot on the crosshead, so I decided to file it down a little bit. After doing that, it fit in better. Then I slid the crossheads onto their slots. After that, I attached the main rods. At this point, the mechanism was finished. After completing this step, I called it a day and didn't really continue on it for a few days because I was waiting on some special parts to arrive. It is now March 22 and the special pieces that I have ordered for 361 have arrived. There are a couple of detail parts that I ordered from Wiseman Model Services. So here's those detail parts I ordered. Paid, yes. I ordered quite a few things. This first one is a couple of gears from a Shay, but one of the gears, the one that I'm pointing at right there, kind of matches a gear that wasn't working on the kit while I was testing the mechanism yesterday with some wires. And here are some other pieces that I'll talk about later in the video. Step 17, lead truck assembly. Assemble lead truck wheels to lead truck casting. Attach lead truck cover plate to casting. Attached finished lead truck to underframe, securing using a 2 by 3/16 inch self-tapping screw. Since the kit was old, a lot of the screws didn't just smoothly go into the place where they're supposed to be screwed into. So the instructions called for screwing them in some, and then screwing them out some, and then screwing them in again some more, as you can see me doing in this clip. So at this point, I now have the frame of the locomotive built and the tender right here. The next thing I'm going to build is the boiler and cab part, and the reason I saved this for last is because I ordered a bunch of extra detail parts for it. so I can make this model look a lot more like the real Denver and Rio Grande Western 361. The first step is to mount a cab at the rear of the boiler casting using a self-tapping screw. This step says glue the air compressor. One of the air compressor pegs broke while I was fiddling with it another time, but it's okay because there's another one on there. The next step says to glue in handrail posts, but unfortunately this kit didn't come with any handrail posts, so I'm waiting for the ones that I ordered to get here, so for now we're going to skip this step. The next sections deal with the top of the boiler. It says to attach and glue stack pin. Make sure not to glue the stack to the post. You may want to change stacks at a later date. I couldn't find the stack pin, so instead I clipped off one of the piece ends right here. This isn't one of the actual pieces, this is what holds the pieces. And they're exactly the right diameter to fit inside the stack, so this is our new stack pin. Step 4 is to glue the bell in place. Next deals with steam dome detail. It requires gluing 2 safety valves and 2 holes on top of the steam dome at the front left and the front right. Here are the 2 safety valves. I put in the first safety valve off camera because it was just really tedious to get it in. Now, as for installing the whistle, I actually ordered this nice brass 5 chime from Wiseman Model Services. And I did this because the other whistle just looks exactly like these safeties, and safeties are not a whistle, and a whistle is not safeties. So I thought this looks much nicer instead, and it's more accurate to the prototype because the real 361 had a real Grand 5 chime. At this point, I think the model's looking very nice. Here we are back the next day, and the next step says to glue in the generator to the hole closest to the cab, but we're not actually going to do that. And the reason we're not going to do that is because this is the generator. That is not a generator. I don't know what MDC was thinking, but no matter what you say, this is not a generator. So I ordered another more detailed 3D printed one off of eBay, and it will arrive in a few days from the time of this recording, so we're just going to put that one on instead, and it'll look much nicer. And it looks really close to the one It actually probably is the one that the real engine had, looking at photos and looking at the product. The next step is to install short air tanks under the cab at 7 and 8, which if I go up right here, that's it right there. And I'm supposed to do that on this side and on the other side, but you can't see it because, you know, the paper is two-dimensional. I'm actually only going to glue on one air tank because if you look closely under the numbers 361, you can see a air tank right there under the bag. But if I get another picture of the other side of the engine, there isn't an air tank. So we're only going to do it to the engineer side. The next few steps deal with installing the headlight, but there's something I'm going to do different. Here you can see the electric headlight being put on the front of the smoke box, and if you install the box headlight, it goes on top. But instead, I'm going to use that bracket that's under the box headlight and put the electric headlight on top of the smoke box, because 361 has an electric headlight on top, and I'm going to fill in that hole with something else. After putting on the headlight, the next thing that I did was make a modification to the tender. Over here in the top right is an air tank that is supposed to be attached to a Shay locomotive. I chose to buy it to put it on the tender to represent the air tank that 361 had on her tender. I also think this one looks a lot better than the one that came with the kit because the other ones were a lot smaller and skinnier. This one's just the right size. And now here's our air tank that we're going to put on the tender. It is now April 3rd and the 3D printed dynamo that I ordered has arrived. Okay everyone, it's a couple days later and I've done a little bit of off-camera work. Right here, you can see there's now a handrail on the fireman's side of the smoke box. And the reason for that is if we look at a photo a real photo of 361, you can see that handrail right there. And I decided to add that. And I think it looks pretty good. I'm really happy with it. And if you look right here, that's not really a kit. Well, it is a kit piece, but that's probably supposed to be like a cab vent or something. But I split it in half and then glued it to the side of the boiler and then attached this handrail to it from one of those pieces of handrail. I think it looks pretty good. Another thing I've done is I've lowered the cylinder saddle even lower because I could, and I just like the way it looks better. You can see there's a little bit of glue marks, but that'll be cleaned up later. And now, you probably can't really tell the difference, but the boiler sits just a little bit lower, and the lower the better. So I'm also happy with that. Now, picking up where we left off, the next step is to attach a number board, round or rectangular, to the center hole in the boiler front, right there. And I'm not actually installing the same rectangular number board that comes with the kit. I'm installing this brass one right here that I ordered with the brass details. And that is because the number board that came with the kit broke when I was trying to see how it fit on the boiler. It was a little flimsy, but this one's not going to break because it's brass. So we're going to put this one on instead. You may be wondering, why do you have the circular number board out? And that is because the rectangular number board and the circular number board do not have the same insert. The circular number board has the correct insert for this locomotive, like you can see right here, it's a round hole, but the brass one just kind of has like just a point on it, so it's not going to fit in there correctly. And I can just glue it to the locomotive front, but then if I do that, it will sit too flat, like that. I know it's not on there correctly, I'm just demonstrating. It'll sit too flat, and there's really no depth. And if you look right here, on the real photo, you can see there's a little bit of a gap between the end of the number board and the smoke box door. So I am going to cut off the end of this and then glue that to the back of this so that it will be able to stick out a little bit like the real thing. So guys, I'm actually not gonna glue on that part right now because while I was trying to clip off the top part, not the part right here, the top part, I bent the board. You probably can't tell, but it is in fact bent. Luckily, the pack came with 2 other rectangular number boards, so I went ahead and clipped off both pieces, the part on the back and the part on top, and now we have this, but it is still brass colored, so I'm just going to glue this for now and then paint it later, and we'll move on to another step for now. While the number board's glue is drying and I'm painting it, I am going to be installing these D&RGW marker lights that are actually accurate to the Denver and Rear Grand Western engines right here. I think this will be a really nice addition to the locomotive because it makes it look better, in my opinion, than other MDC Roundhouse locomotives because of these marker lights. Now, they have these little edges on them, probably just where the brass end was, so now I'm going to clip those off because they're not part of the detail or anything like that. So there it goes, and now here's just the marker light, and I dropped it, but here it is. Just for reference, those are the same marker lights right there, accurate to the real 361. Now we are going to glue them in place, or try to. So now we're going to glue it on, and I know this is an awkward angle, but as you can see here, the marker light part and the holes are different sizes, so if I just hang it regularly, it'll fall out. So that's why it's upright like this, so they can just sit in the holes, and then while they're gluing, they'll be stable, and then that'll be that. Okay, here we are back a couple days later, and we have our rectangular brass number board all painted up in black. It's kind of blurry, let me focus there. There it is, and it's on that little thing we put it on so we can plug it into that hole right in the middle of the smoke box there. So that's what we're about to do. So there it is, just sitting on top right there. I think it looks pretty good, and I'll go ahead and glue it after I'm done with this next part. I had earlier in the video skipped over putting this down because I ordered a replacement part that looked more like a dynamo. And here's that dynamo. It looks a lot nicer if I can get it to focus. There it goes. This is the dynamo. It looks a lot nicer, and it is based on the same dynamo that this locomotive had in real life. This is a Pile National K2 dynamo. It may not show up that well on camera, but this has a lot of detail. Also, I forgot to mention that this dynamo is 3D printed too. That's why it has so much detail on it. It is now April 25th, and I have decided to cut off the air compressors and reglue them in a more raised position. The reason for this is because the air compressors as they sit right now are centered between the top and the bottom of the running board. But if you look at the real 361, you can see the air compressors are more sitting on top of the running board, so I want to adjust them so they look more like this. To do this, I'm going to be using this hobby knife that I got with an assortment of other random hobby-related tools that I got for my birthday just 2 days prior to this recording. I cut off the peg and put it in the hole so that it would provide a better surface for gluing. Now with the air compressors raised, it looks much better and more accurate to the real 361. So it's been a little while since I've last recorded anything, so now I'm going to show you what I've been doing. So I've been experimenting with a new material that I have called polystyrene, and it allows me to make details that you wouldn't find on the market. For example, this box on the side of the smoke box right here is 2 layers of 0.60 inches thick polystyrene. I think it looks pretty good and it looks accurate to the real 361. And here you can see I've extended the cab below the running board right here using the polystyrene as well. I'm going to repaint over that so it'll look a little bit more natural. And I've done the same on the other side as well. I also attached these on the side of the smoke box, and these are supposed to be smoke box braces that I made out of the handrails. And I had them up here, but with the old glue that I had, they weren't really sticking very well. So I got this new Gorilla Glue right here, which is the same glue I've been using, but it's newer. So now I'm going to reattach the smoke box braces. It did come one day late, but it still came. This is a pretty fun piece that I got for 361 over there. Papers. Oh, there it is. Oh wow, that is really small. This is a toolbox to go on the front, just like the real 361. It's very small, just like the handrails. It's just how I wanted it to be. So that's really neat. It is now a day later, and I brought out the pieces that I got so that I could spray paint them. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that the kit didn't come with any handrail posts, so I ordered some along with the toolbox. The next thing I'm going to do is apply this toolbox to the front of the pilot right here, just like on the Rail 361. This is the one that I just painted the other day. And I'm also going to apply these handrails to the side. Another thing I did is put a piece of polystyrene under the toolbox because there was a slit under here, so I utilized that. And the purpose of this is to raise the smoke box up a little bit because on the real one it is raised up a little bit. I don't see this very often on other people's MDCs, so I thought this would make it stand out and it would be more realistic. Now I'm going to apply the handrail post and put the handrails through them. Now I'm going to slide the handrails into the handrail post. Now I'm going to be putting the handrail on the front. The model has 4 slots for 4 handrail posts, but the real 361 only has 2 slots, so I'm going to only be putting 2 on there. At this point, I was done with the model with the exception of the motor. Anything else that would be done would just be adding some slight modifications and a little bit of paint touch-ups. It is now July 3rd and I've started working on the motor a little bit. I created some test wires and hooked them up to my Bachmann controller and started testing the motor. I'm doing it this way because I don't have any HO3 track yet. The reason I'm testing the motor is because when I first got it, I found out that something was off, and while trying to fix it, couldn't put it back together quite the right way. So I'm testing it here to make sure it works properly. It seemed to work well enough, and I ended off working on it for today. Here's another item I ordered from Walter's Trains. Came all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it is, that's neat. That's complimentary. I didn't order that. But what I did order is some terminal rail joiners so I can power what I'm about to show you now. And the other thing that's also complimentary, I didn't order that either. Wait. So I accidentally bought a track gauge tool instead of actual track because gauge is right under track and it was written in small lettering, so I didn't notice until just now. Anyway, in the next clip, I'll have that track. Okay, just as I said, I am back, and this time I have ordered the right thing. It's upside down. I have ordered the right thing. So there it is, 361 now has rails to run on, and the track looks pretty good too. I am happy with this order. Okay, now we have 361 laid down on the track, and the terminal rail joiners are connected up to my controller here, so moment of truth, let's see if it works. Okay, so right now something isn't working, but I'm gonna see if I can try to figure it out. That's probably not good. So what happened here was somewhere in the motor something was shorting and I couldn't find out what. I spent a lot of days after this trying to figure out what was wrong with the motor and how I could fix it, but I just couldn't find anything to do. And then I had to stop progress because I had to help pack up the house because we were moving. After moving into the new house, I decided that this would be a good place to end the video because I was done with the building part of the model. It's a couple days since the last clip, and this motor just got finished. I didn't record it, but it just got finished making a huge spark when I tried connecting it up after multiple attempts to get this working. So I'm gonna go ahead and order a new one off of eBay, not a exact copy of this motor, like a different, more modern motor to put in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this one in the trash because no one wants a broken motor. And that's it. On that note, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video. Here's where I'm at with 361. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, like it. If you think someone else will like this video, share it to them. And if you want to keep up with the progress on this locomotive and see more like this, subscribe. And with that, I'll see you all next time. Before I end the video, here is some photos of the stages the model went through while I was building it, from what it looked like when I started to what it looks like right now.